Final Fantasy VII is the greatest game ever made. At least, that's what a 10-year-old me would have said. While I'm not sure I'd offer it that irrefutable praise these days, I still love the original game, and it holds a large place in my heart. That said, I'm super hyped for the remake and even bought 10 Butterfinger candy bars to get all 5 DLCs they were offering. And of course, that sweet, sweet Tifa theme. So, with any remake, there's bound to be changes. And with the final trailer having released, and apparently some people receiving the game early, changes are definitely abound. I've been trying my best to avoid any major spoilers and wanted to take my guesses at what potential changes might be and how I, or maybe even most hardcore FF7 fans, might be disappointed by them. Disclaimer! I'm totally psyched for the remake, Part 1, and believe I'll totally enjoy it. Having played the demo, I can confirm gameplay-wise I'm definitely on board. So this video is no way meant to dunk on the remake or suggest the original was always better. I just wanted to discuss some predictions on changes and see how others might feel about them. So without further ado, just gotta get the game out here. Black label copy only, man. Don't touch the bottom side. Because we're all pro gamers. Change 1. Forced flower. In the original, after blowing up the Sector 1 reactor, Cloud bumps into Aeris and has the option to buy a flower from her. However, from the trailers we've seen, it looks like the exchange between them suggests that Aerith just gives him the flower.
This is for you.
A flower?
This in and of itself is not that big of a deal. However, in the original game, this exchange is part of a background dating mechanic that counts invisible points which determine who Cloud goes out on a date with later at the Gold Saucer. Square Enix canon seems to align with the idea that Aeris is the one for Cloud and that she is who you should ultimately be dating. But it seems like in the remake they could be removing the player's option to influence this outcome. But screw that, I want to date Tifa. Sorry, Aeris. I just have a strict no dating dead girls policy. Change number 2. Avalanche aren't cold-blooded killers. When the original game kicks off, you're on a mission to bomb a reactor in the main city of Midgar. Essentially a power plant that sucks the life energy of the planet to provide electricity to society. Right when you're about to do it, Cloud hears a voice. Watch out, this isn't just a reactor. Okay, that was weird. But whatever, let's blow some stuff up. Oh man, wasn't that fun? Didn't we have a good old time? Good thing it's just an empty factory with no people in it, right? Oh wait, what's that? Oh well, would you look at that? 20 minutes into the game and the player is already a terrorist mass murderer. I'm not sure. This could just be a translation issue as the North American release was notorious for having them. But based on this screenshot, Cloud and the gang are apparently really crappy, terrible people. Not exactly the lens you want to view your heroes through. So my guess is there's no way Square Enix is going to... Oh look, they changed it. It's in the demo. Shinra did it. Change number 3. The Turks. This bad boy crew of corporate gangsters turn up multiple times throughout your adventure to either annoy you or make you laugh. All except for this one time. That's right, Reno. When Shinra constructs a plan to decimate its own Sector 7 and blame all the death and destruction on Avalanche, they send Reno in to do the dirty work. I mean, at this point in the game, Reno is essentially the worst person who has the highest single body count among anybody you encounter. In fact, he might even be higher than Sephiroth himself. This act of him planning a bomb on the Sector 7 pillar with complete disregard and lack of conscience for the lives of the citizens is true evil. Contrast that with all the other instances you encounter the Turks throughout the game, and especially Reno and Advent children. That's quite a difference. Instead of being a true evil antagonist, he's more like the Team Rocket comical relief charming buffoon. If they want the Turks, and more importantly Reno, to align with more modern versions of them, they'll probably want to change the role he plays in the whole downfall of Sector 7. Just my thoughts. Change 4. No strategy guide? What is this? Kingdom Hearts 3? I know. Strategy guides have largely fallen out of modern day use. But we're talking about the biggest JRPG game of all time, the most anticipated remake of all time, from the biggest JRPG company of all time. You're telling me there wasn't a single company that was willing to come forward and produce an official physical guide to accompany the game? It's not like it's an MMO. The contents of the guide should remain relatively consistent with the game's content over time. It just seems like such an odd missed opportunity. The game kind of feels almost incomplete without having that beautiful book sitting right next to it. Animal Crossing has a guide. Number 5. Better translation. So maybe the original game had some translation issues. Maybe there were a few grammatical errors that popped up from time to time. It still happens in games today. Like this guy R6. Oh wait, apparently they fixed it already. This guy is sick. Yes he is. But what does this mean for the remake? Well, from playing the demo, it looks like they're trying to keep as faithful as they can to the original lines. However, with the updated realistic look and added voice acting, if these lines were repeated exactly as they were written, they would probably come across stilted or just unnatural. When the dialogue is new and expanding upon the topics of the original script, the acting and voices seem way more natural, and I actually like these parts better. Nothing really annoyed me while playing the demo, but I think it'll be easy for people to separate out old and new lines, so hopefully nobody minds the additions. Change number 6. Weirdness at the Honeybee Inn. Alright, so we all know the whole Don Corneo Sector 6 Wall Market side mission is quite the crazy adventure in the original. A bunch of weird, odd, and sometimes downright disturbing things happen. However, the part that always weirded me out the most was at the Honeybee Inn. Not the part about getting women's underwear. That's normal? No. The part that always freaked me out was the ability to stare through the keyholes of the 2 doors on the right. The top door? Not too odd. Pretty humorous. Just an old couple whose son booked them a night at a place they definitely don't feel comfortable in. What's up with that jumping miniature Kate Sith? However, the other door... What the hell? What's going on here? The room's all dark and there's lightning sound effects going off, people dressed up in a bunch of costumes, some dialogue about the Promised Land, and it looks like Shinra employees in the room? As a kid, this scene scared the crap out of me. I had no idea what was going on. Now, unless this is also just an example of bad translation, I think as an adult, I understand what is supposed to be going on, sort of. I think some Shinra manager is role-playing, and the premise of the story is the resurrection of some queen and adventuring to the Promised Land. Now, why the heck this is crossing over into the actual storyline of the game, I'm not sure. But I believe it's supposed to be a non-canon Easter egg, just making fun of how weird this Shinra manager is. In fact, several mentions of Shinra mid-management are made throughout the game, and they all seem to be incompetent or purposely excluded from the actual goings-on of the company. All in all, the scene still scares me, just for different reasons, and I have a feeling it's not going to be making it into the remake. Change number 7. More development of side characters / Avalanche. I think we all assumed this was going to happen given the fact part 1 of the remake is Midgar only. Playing the demo made this even more apparent, as Cloud's interactions with Biggs, Wedge, and especially Jesse are much more detailed and expanded on, even with just the first mission. Anyone who's played the original already knows the fate that awaits these three. Reno! But to be honest, I never really cared for them much. Oh, what's that, Jesse? You're stuck? Huh. Well, that sucks. See you later. Don't worry, you're gonna die in like 2 hours anyway. Converse this what happens in the demo.
You okay?
Do I look okay? Help a girl out, would you? My hero.
Hey! We'll link up over there! Look after Jesse!
Come this way.
I think with events and changes like this, the player will grow much more attached to these three than they ever had a chance to be in the original. Even to Wedge.
I think I see an exit.
So in the original, when Barrett's doing this, and as the player, I'm thinking, who were these people again? Instead, I'm probably going to be like, Jesse, Uncle Jesse! So I think for Team Avalanche, these changes are going to be pretty awesome. But when it comes to all these new people Square Enix decided to wait to show off in the final trailer just a week before the game launches, I don't know about those guys. Change number 8, Red 13. Yeah, we know he's in the game, but the player just doesn't get to control him. I'm not too disappointed by this fact because I somewhat expected it to happen since you only pick up Red 13 for about 2 battles before the end of Midgar. I just hope, however, they end up having him fight alongside the party is done in a cool, actually supporting and enjoyable way. More Anna from Bioshock, less Rico Killzone 2. Chances are they're also going to come out with updates to the game over time, and I have a suspicion one of those updates will be the ability to control our fiery friend. Here's just hoping it doesn't come as paid DLC.
To be done.
Change number 9, No World Map. We've known this for a long time, but the whole of Part 1 of the remake takes place only in Midgar. Up until the point of Square Enix confirming this, I was really hoping it wouldn't be the case. I had a strong assumption it would be, and while I'm sure the game will still be fun, this really disappoints and worries me. Final Fantasy VII has what I consider to be 2 major tonal shifts that occur simultaneously within the game, and they happen fairly early on, but they fundamentally change the game. I will get to what that second tonal shift is with my discussion on the final number 10 change, but the first I'd like to discuss is the shift from Midgar to the open world. Midgar is basically the New York City of Final Fantasy. A bustling metropolis that never sleeps, has people from all walks of life, hints of steampunk and cyberpunk, and most importantly for the player, serves as a tutorial level of what to expect from the grand adventure that is Final Fantasy VII. Playing through the game casually for this video took me about 5 hours to get through all of Midgar, which is just enough time to get a handle on all of the mechanics and structure the game has to offer, without getting to the point of feeling stale. We the player don't even get the opportunity to explore the majority of the 8 sectors that make up the city, but still feel the energy and wonder that exists around every new loading screen. The experience is very on rails and doesn't let the player have much in the way of choice on where to go or where to explore next. While the city is supposed to be a massive concrete and steel jungle, we really don't see too much of it. Instead, our imaginations are left to wonder what other crazy exciting secrets may be in hiding. Instead of wandering around aimlessly, the player is directed down very deliberately mapped out corridors where there is little chance of getting lost. Remind you of anything? That's right. Midgar is structured in the same linear fashion as those later titles in the franchise, which people love to hate specifically for that reason. Now, I don't hate Midgar because of that. I think Midgar is one of the most fun parts of the game and was a great way to kick off the game for new players. But, oh my god. Just look at this, and this, and this, and what about all this? The first time I stepped foot into Final Fantasy VII's open world, it blew my mind. Obviously the graphics don't really hold up today, but at the time it was like jumping into a whole new world that I never thought possible and couldn't have even imagined. You now have this big open world to explore with secrets galore, people and towns to visit, vehicles to drive, mini games to play. Taking that first step made the game feel infinite. So having that experience be left out from the remake, even though it's expected, is still disappointing. Midgar is essentially a hand-holding tutorial, a world for the player to explore that is very much like their own. There's buildings, playgrounds, trains, cars, power plants, skyscrapers, computers, people with office jobs. Basically, it's a place the character can easily identify with and feel comfortable in. It doesn't contain much in the sense of high fantasy or crazy life forms. You fight soldiers or robots, and the most magical thing is the typical spells in all Final Fantasy games. You don't even get your first summon until going out into the outside world. Going from Midgar to the open world is like going from this to this. Or from this to this. Quite the difference. What's worrisome or concerning about this lack of even a smaller open world area, maybe one that contains just up to Fort Condor, is that I'm not sure Square Enix will ever do it. They said they really don't know how many parts it's going to take to finish the entirety of Final Fantasy VII, and they don't seem to know how long it will take to finish each part either. As adding an open world type structure to the game with the graphic fidelity Part 1 is being set in, I can only assume this would blow out the development time required exponentially or even be borderline impossible for them to do. Having had no confirmation from Square Enix on what their plans are in this regard, I won't be surprised if, come Part 2, we still don't have an open world. Change 10. Sephiroth. Sephiroth is the second tonal shift I'm referring to with Final Fantasy VII. All throughout the Midgar storyline, your team is facing off against Shinra, with President Shinra seeming like the ultimate baddie the good guys have to take down. But then right around the point where it seems like your team is about to succeed, you're captured and thrown in a cell until they feel like permanently getting rid of you. What happens next separates the first 5 hours of the game, your time spent wandering Midgar and fighting Shinra, from everything else that happens across the course of the game. The team wakes up with a creepy, unsettling ambient music playing. There doesn't seem to be any Shinra employees around, the lock to your cell is open, and there's a trail of blood throughout the entire Shinra HQ upper levels. Okay. Suddenly I feel like I'm playing a horror game. No longer am I playing a JRPG with magic and swords. Instead I'm playing Resident Evil and I'm fearing for my life about whatever just left this disgusting graphic mess all over the place, and hoping I don't run into it. Oh, did I mention? Just prior to this, you peered into a biomedical container that was glowing pink and contained some alien life form known as Genova, and according to Barrett, it has no head. I don't know about you, but as a kid, this all scared the crap out of me. I mean, that still image of Genova still kind of disturbs me. Gross. Well, turns out it was. And everybody and their mother are afraid of what he's going to do to the planet. Shinra? Who's Shinra? Nobody cares about them. They're small fries. They're bothersome gnats compared to the great Sephiroth. The team thought they had a fight on their hands before, well now they're about to have the fight of their lives. Now, what I thought the original game did great with Sephiroth was that they made him scary. As a kid, I was actually scared of Sephiroth. We saw what he did to all those people in Shinra. Now you're telling me we have to chase him down and kill him? That's impossible! He'll kill us! Throughout the entire game you're chasing down Sephiroth. Everybody mentions him. In fact, we don't even meet the really real Sephiroth until nearly the end of the game, and we only fight him one single time. Remember that giant snake that kills you when you try to run through the marsh? This is what Sephiroth did to it. Remember that time Cloud told us his story of Sephiroth from 5 years ago? Watch what he does in battle. Watch what he does to Nibelheim and all the townsfolk. Yeah, we're trying to find that guy. Yay. In the trailers, Sephiroth seems to be showing up way earlier in the game, and his role seems to be altered. He seems to be a more direct antagonist to the team and to Cloud himself. In the original, stopping Sephiroth becomes our main goal, but in truth, Sephiroth doesn't really pay attention to us. In fact, he doesn't even barely know who we are. Like, seriously, he's like,
Who are you guys?
We're Star Fox.
You'll never defeat.
in all honesty, Sephiroth doesn't consider Cloud to be on his level. He doesn't concern himself with our team. We're like ants to him. However, the remake seems to be positioning Sephiroth more directly as Cloud's nemesis, like the two are destined rivals, obsessed with besting the other in battle. But in the original game, this dynamic didn't really exist. What made Sephiroth so scary and intimidating was how mysterious and powerful he was. I'm afraid that if he's constantly chiding Cloud all throughout the game, Sephiroth will no longer feel like this ultimate force of evil nearly impossible to stop, and more like an annoying cliche villain that shows up to throw some uncreative and overused one-liners at the player and then disappears again without putting up much of a fight. It reminds me of something like this.
Where's Mother?
We know you hid her, brother.
No need to shout.
Basically a character that lacks depth, personality, and purpose, and instead exists solely as the barrier preventing the player from winning the game. Most importantly, I believe setting Sephiroth and Cloud into this dynamic of destiny changes a key aspect of Cloud's character growth and personal arc that I think can no longer be achieved. The story of Final Fantasy VII is just as much the story of a group of heroes saving the world as it is the story of Cloud Strife understanding who he is as a person and becoming the best version of himself he can be, while acknowledging and accepting his own personal weaknesses. We see Cloud as a child talking to Tifa about how he's going to leave Nibelheim and move to Midgar so he can join Soldier and become a first-class warrior, just like his hero Sephiroth. Tifa responds back asking that if she's ever in trouble, Cloud promises to come and rescue her. Here we see the immature, cool version of Cloud that he's internally battling throughout the entire game. He goes off to Midgar seeking strength and fame. It's like someone saying, I'm gonna move to the big city. Someday, you're gonna see my name up in lights. Cloud seems to be following a dream for the wrong reasons. He's trying to become a warrior for the wrong reasons. He wants to become strong and a member of First Class so that people all around the world will know him and respect him and like him. As it turns out, Cloud fails to make First Class. In fact, he's only able to become an ordinary Shinra soldier, and the embarrassment of his failure causes him to hide his identity from Tifa when he returns to Nibelheim with Zack and Sephiroth some years later. Basically, Cloud was far too weak to be anywhere near the same league as his idol Sephiroth, and his dream of others respecting and praising him for his strength as a powerful warrior was never going to happen. However, we find out way later in the game that when Sephiroth attacks Nibelheim, injuring Tifa and Zack, killing Cloud's mom and the rest of the townsfolk, Cloud grabs the Buster Sword and wounds Sephiroth from behind. Sephiroth quickly dispatches of Cloud. However, Cloud musters any and all strength he has and attempts to attack Sephiroth again to finish him off, only to be stabbed through the chest by Sephiroth's great Masamune. But Cloud, crying out and fighting for the vengeance of his hometown, his loved ones, and the past life he lived, Cloud is able to unleash inhuman-like strength, throwing Sephiroth over the edge to fall into the Mako below. Presumably, Sephiroth dies in the process. Here we see Cloud surpassing the person he looked up to his whole life, defeating him in a one-on-one fight when before he didn't even have what it took to join Soldier. So what changed? How was Cloud suddenly able to become so powerful? In my opinion, it is because he was now fighting for something worth fighting for. He wasn't interested in fame or glory. No one would know of his great deeds that day. He just wanted to protect the ones he loved, even if it meant sacrificing himself in the process. This was a turning point for Cloud, where he became a true warrior that was fighting for the right reasons. He was a hero. The rest of Final Fantasy VII is basically him remembering this about himself, so that he can overcome and accept the weaknesses of his past self, and again become the hero he's capable of and the hero the world needs. The huge problem I have with this new dynamic between Sephiroth and Cloud is the storyline of Cloud changes from Cloud choosing to grow and become the great hero he is, to instead it seeming like it's merely his destiny to defeat Sephiroth, and they were always meant to be rivals down to the bitter end. To me, this greatly diminishes the character growth and arc that Cloud goes through, and instead dumps him back into the realms of cliché hero, whose life was always ultimately leading up to this point. Instead of him being a normal young kid who had dreams of becoming a hero, failing, growing and learning from his failure, and then choosing to chase after his dreams again until he's able to make them a reality. In the end, his dreams of becoming a hero are really secondary to his true desire, to save the world and the people in it from the evils of Sephiroth. Him becoming a hero is just something that happens along the way. So that's it. That's my thoughts on the potential and predicted changes coming to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'll see if any of them actually come true when I play through the game in, hopefully a few hours. When they don't, you can all come into the comments and make fun of me for being so wrong. So if you're a fan of the original and plan on playing the remake, I hope you enjoy, and please let me know your thoughts on the actual changes that take place. Happy button mashing.